Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, I was thinking about New Year's resolutions. We all make them.
Oh, yeah. Every
We
year.
promise ourselves we're gonna, hit the gym, read more books, whatever it is, and then by like February.
It's a distant memory. It's just human nature, I think.
Exactly. But today we are looking at a promise that um, makes going to the gym look like absolute child's play.
It's a good way to put it.
We're unpacking a source text that demands this vow, this pledge, that is so intense it's designed to literally alter your reality.
And not just for a year. We're talking about for eternity.
The stakes are incredibly high. It's a concept called Mengseh.
Right. Mengseh. It's a Korean term, and it basically means a pledge or a covenant.
And the source we're looking at is a speech called Our Pledge. It was delivered by Reverend Myung Moon on November 21st, 1982.
At the Belvedere Estate up in New York.
And we should probably set the scene for you because context is just everything here. It's the early 80s. The Cold War is on.
And the Unification Church is, it's all over the news. There's a lot of controversy, a lot of public anxiety about so-called cults.
For sure. And into that, Reverend Moon gathers his followers and basically tells them, you're not just church members, you are an army.
That's the core metaphor, really, the Independence Army. This speech is essentially a mobilization order. He's rallying them to see themselves as soldiers in a cosmic war.
Okay, so before we get into the mechanics of all that, and they are very specific, we should probably do our usual disclaimer.
Right. We have to. So
Okay.
This is a deep dive into a very specific theological worldview.
Yeah.
We're here to unpack the text, the internal logic of this speech.
And we're going to come across some statements about, gender, politics, society that are extremely controversial.
Extremely.
Our job here is not to endorse any of it. We're acting as impartial observers, trying to understand the map they were using to see the world.
And that map, it's dark. There are no gray areas. It is a binary world. It's heaven versus hell, period.
So let's start with the Mengseh itself. This isn't just a one-time thing, is it? It's more like a rhythm.
It's a whole lifestyle. The source says the pledge is recited every single Sunday.
Every Sunday.
At 5 in the morning.
Wow, 5 a.m.
Rain or shine. It's this weekly reaffirmation. And it covers 5 parts. Creation and the fall, restoration of children, God's struggle, the whole restoration plan, and then finally this idea of one sovereignty.
It's comprehensive, but the part that really jumped out at me was the geography of it all. He talks about reality being, like, physically divided by a boundary line.
That boundary line is absolutely critical. He says humanity is stuck right in between God, who is heaven, and Satan, who represents earth and hell.
And he draws this literal line between them.
A distinct boundary line. And the challenge he throws at his listeners is simple. Where do you live? Are you above that line or are you below it?
And this is where it gets so granular. I mean, most people think of good and evil as, big moral choices.
Like, did you lie? Did you steal?
Yeah. But he brings it down to what you had for lunch.
He really does. He uses this incredibly vivid analogy about food to pinpoint your spiritual location.
Okay, you have to walk us through this because it is such a bizarre comparison.
So he says, imagine 2 couples. Couple A, they go to a nice Chinese restaurant. They order all the best dishes. They're really enjoying the flavor. Maybe they go dancing.
Sounds like a pretty good date night.
To most people, yeah. But then there's couple B. They're eating what he calls tasteless bread, just the worst food imaginable.
Okay.
But they're doing it while working for God's mission. They're suffering. They're uncomfortable.
And his argument is that couple B, the ones with the tasteless bread, are above the line.
Exactly. It's all about motivation. He argues that satisfying your body, like couple A enjoying their Chinese food, that pulls you below the line.
Oh, comfort is suspicious.
It's deeply suspicious.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying your dinner, you might actually be siding with Satan. It's a worldview that weaponizes asceticism.
And that logic, it leads directly to maybe the most jarring analogy in the entire speech.
The fireman analogy.
I had to read this a couple of times. Because the fireman is, usually a hero.
Right. But he focuses on the violence of the rescue. He says the world is like a burning hotel, and he's the fireman.
But then he says, in an emergency, a fireman might have to throw someone out of a window.
And he's explicit. He says you might break a leg. You might even break your neck.
But, and this is the whole argument, that act of throwing you, even if it breaks your neck, is an act of goodness.
Because the alternative is burning to death.
So he's framing the entire unification movement as an emergency rescue.
Precisely. If you truly believe the hotel is on fire, then you accept the broken leg. You accept the disruption to your normal life.
Which explains all the radical stuff he talks about. Husbands and wives separating for the mission.
To an outsider, it looks like he's destroying families. But to an insider, he's saving them from the fire. He's saying, I might hurt you, but it's because I see the smoke.
Speaking of husbands and wives, we have to get into the section on gender. This is what? It's very much a product of its time.
It is a fascinating and deeply controversial take on history. So the text actually acknowledges the rise of women's rights. Moon says, women have been victimized, treated like property.
Okay, so he sees that.
He sees that, but his explanation for why things improved is purely theological. He calls it a providential occurrence.
Meaning God planned it.
Yes. He argues God let women's rights rise for one reason, to elevate the position of the bride for the coming Messiah. And he uses this metaphor of a providential hill.
The hill. Okay, let's unpack that.
So imagine history is a really steep hill. For most of it, men have been pulling women up the hill. Men are the subject, women are the object.
Right.
But when they get to the very top, the transition point, women have to take the lead to cross over into the ideal world.
So for a moment, women are in charge?
For a moment. The text is very, very clear that this is temporary. He says, afterwards, the men must regain their subjective position. He even uses the phrase, firm guiding hand.
So it's a temporary promotion, just to get over the hill and then back to the old ways.
That's his view. And he connects this anxiety directly to what he sees in America. He claims that because women have gained power, men have become afraid of them.
And this leads to a pretty big claim.
It's a huge leap. He explicitly states this fear is the cause of homosexuality.
Wow.
It's a very controversial causality. But in his theology, if the subject and object polarity gets reversed, reality itself starts to break down.
And to show the danger of this modern culture, he brings up a very specific person.
Who does?
Elvis Presley.
The king. I did not see that coming.
Me neither. What did Elvis do to get into this sermon?
It was the allure. He calls Elvis the king of rock, who influenced the world in a satanic way.
Because of the screaming fans and the hips.
Basically, it was a focus on appearance, on emotion, on attraction. And he contrasts that with the heavenly standard, saying, I don't date, I don't touch, I don't shake hands.
He's setting himself up as the anti-Elvis.
Exactly. Secular romance is a trap. And then he tells this really odd personal story about how women are always trying to entice him.
Right. He says beautiful, intelligent women join just to tempt him.
And his defense mechanism is to make funny faces or act really stern.
It's a funny image, but the point is deadly serious. He's saying he's incorruptible, unlike these secular rock stars.
Which brings us back to the war itself, the Independence Army. And a huge theme in this is persecution.
This is such a classic move in these kinds of groups. He turns all the opposition into a sign that they're on the right track.
He does it perfectly. He talks about the slur Mooney.
And says it's a blessing to be called that.
Right. He tells them, if the world welcomed you, that would be bad news, because the world is Satan's territory.
So if Satan likes you, you must be doing something wrong.
And if Satan hates you, if the world is persecuting you, that's proof you're on God's side. It's a completely sealed, logical loop.
The more they yell at you, the more right you feel.
And to really drive this home for his American followers, he brings up the ultimate American hero,
George Washington.
Traitor George Washington.
A bold move.
It's brilliant rhetoric, though. He says, look, to the British crown, Washington was a traitor stealing the king's subjects. He says, I am in the same position.
So he's taking the main accusation against him, that he's stealing kids, and reframing it.
Totally. He's not kidnapping them. He's liberating them from Satan's sovereignty, just like Washington liberated the colonies from King George.
It's a sacred war for independence.
And this army has weapons. Truth, which he calls the sword, and love, which he compares to an atomic bomb.
An atomic bomb of love. That's an image.
It implies total transformation. But speaking of struggle, we have to talk about the prison story.
This is maybe the most visceral part of the whole text, the North Korean labor camp.
He describes the starvation, the death, but he zeroes in on one specific detail, the lice.
It's so graphic. He talks about pressing his thumbnail on the seams of his clothes and it turning red with blood from all the lice.
And most people would tell that story for sympathy. Look how much I suffered.
But he does the exact opposite.
He reframes the lice. He calls them medals of honor.
Medals of honor from the kingdom of heaven.
Imagine being a young follower. Maybe you're sleeping in a van, selling flowers, getting doors slammed in your face.
Yeah.
And he's telling you, my lice were medals. Your suffering is your currency in heaven. It makes all that pain meaningful. It valorizes it.
So if it's a war, and suffering is the currency, what does victory look like?
The victory condition is one sovereignty.
The total erasure of all national boundaries.
One world, one people, one land. He's very critical of American selfishness, actually. He says America's mission is to serve the world, not itself. But the end game is a world without borders.
And he has a, let's say, a unique immigration policy proposal.
It's something else. He suggests that if the U.S. Immigration Department just made every immigrant take a 120-day divine principle workshop,
a mandatory theology class,
the nation would be restored. His logic is if everyone believes the same thing, you don't need borders.
And a key part of that one world, that one belief system, is language.
Yes. And the language of heaven, the mother tongue, is not English. It's Korean.
That feels like a high bar for entry.
Well, he has a justification. He uses an encyclopedia analogy. He says, if the best knowledge was in a Korean encyclopedia, you'd learn Korean to read it right.
I suppose.
But he says the divine principle is the ultimate knowledge, and it's in Korean, so you have to learn it.
And then he really raises the stakes. He brings your ancestors into it.
He does. He says in the afterlife, your ancestors will shame you if you're on earth with the true parents and you don't learn their language.
Cue pressure from beyond the grave. That's effective.
And then there's the final vision. A heavenly museum. He tells the people in that room that one day they will be the exhibits.
Like literally on display.
Yes. Future generations and spirits will come to look at them as pioneers, and the guidebooks for the museum.
All in Korean.
All in Korean. So you better start studying if you want to read your own plaque.
Yeah.
It's a complete reversal of the usual power dynamic. The language of this small, historically oppressed nation becomes the universal standard.
So let's bring this down to daily life again. What does this text say about something as basic as how you should love your family?
It establishes a very rigid hierarchy of love. It's heavenly law.
And it's probably not what most of us would expect.
Probably not. The order is love your parents first, then your children, and then last, your spouse.
Your spouse comes last.
Last. It prioritizes the vertical lineage, the connection to past and future, over the horizontal romantic bond. Remember, Elvis is bad. Romance is suspicious. Duty is everything.
And there's this little moment of wordplay about living this hard, duty-first life, the pretzel anecdote.
Right. He's talking to followers who are living in poverty. He says, if you're so poor, all you can eat is a pretzel. Don't feel bad.
Why? Because of a pun.
Yes. He says that to him, the word pretzel sounds like blessing.
Pretzel. Blessing. Okay, it's a bit of a stretch.
It's a huge stretch. But the point is the reframing. He's teaching them to see poverty not as failure, but as a dramatic, holy adventure.
It all ties back to his definition of hell, which isn't about fire and brimstone. It's almost geometric.
It is. He says hell is defined by the size of your selfishness. The person who sacrifices the world for themselves is in the deepest part of hell.
And the person who sacrifices themselves for the cosmos
is at the very center of heaven. It's about the direction of your energy. Are you taking or are you giving?
And the Mengseh pledge is that daily, weekly promise to be the person who gives no matter what it costs.
Even if the cost is lice or tasteless bread or a broken leg from that fireman?
So to recap this whole thing, this speech, our pledge, is a mobilization order. It asks you to see every single action, from eating lunch to learning Korean, as part of cosmic war.
It demands the erasure of all boundaries, national, cultural, personal, and it justifies extreme personal sacrifice with that burning hotel analogy.
It's a worldview that offers this incredible sense of purpose. You get to be a hero. You're a soldier in God's army.
But the cost is immense. You get to be saved from the fire, but you might have to be thrown out a window to get there.
I want to leave you, our listeners, with that final image he painted. History as a museum. It's such a provocative idea.
It really is. He's asking you to imagine your life as an exhibit that future generations will come and study.
And if your life was a museum display right now, what would be in the case?
Would it be the comfortable things, the Chinese food? Or, as this text would challenge, would it be the lice of struggle, your medals of honor?
It's a heavy question. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.